Good afternoon, evening, whatever time you're watching in the future. I'm back with Rocco. It's Jumper Punch, and we're actually episode 5 now, Rocco.
How are ya, Dan, the man, and the audience out there? Yes, we got it right this time. It is episode 5, and it's party episode because we've got a big show happening.
Got a massive episode. I've got my can of Monster to get excited about. And, I mean, it's a big show. We've got a real exciting special guest, which we will talk about a bit later in the shows we usually do. But today's subject is legacy building. So, obviously, Rocco, the 80s were very kind to you. I mean, good music, Carlton flags, decent dress sense. I mean, you look at some of the shirts I wear, I would have nailed the 80s.
You would have nailed the 80s there, definitely, mate.
Definitely.
We had the big hair, we had the chest hair, you know what I mean? We had the gold, you know. We used to walk around with Saturday Night Fever and walking down with the big ghetto blaster. It was a good time, man. We loved it. We loved it.
Mate, I mean, I tell you, I'm all about fluoro tracksuits. I would have been invested.
Yes.
I would have been invested. And obviously, you were a part, like, if we look at us as fans, even though we've got something in common, you think, for me, I've been here 10 years. So my greatest achievement is beating Essendon round 5 at the G.
Yep.
You can go into your depths and see flags, see finals, see everything. So tell us a little bit about the 80s, Rocco. What was that like?
Yeah, the 80s it was a good time, man. The Blues, they were rocking and rolling, mate. Every week it was about the next finals, you know. That's all Carlton was, man. You used to walk around with your big chest pumped out. Man, who do you follow, man? And mate, I follow the Blues. Can't you tell by the way I'm walking, you know? And it was success. That's all it was about. It was about winning from about 79 naturally, and then you're going into like that era there, 81, 82, and then you went into like 86, 87, you know. It was about one grand final at a time, you know. We used to win, 75 to 80% of our games in the year. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what position you were in, you'd come back. You knew that you were always there. And you had these icon players. Like, we're talking like the Bazastos, the Kernahans, the Sheldons, the Bruce Dool. Like, there's just so many, I can't even think about it. And at the time, you're just looking at them and they're just footballers, you know what I mean? But now when you look back, they were just, man, even as teenagers, or they were your idols. You were looking at them as your idols, yeah?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, saying that they're just normal players, because we were discussing on camera that transition that a player goes from very good player, crowd hero, so suddenly you look back at him when he's retired and you're like, my God, that guy's a legend. Kids talk about him. Like, I know the Brulstool name. I know the Kernahan name. I wasn't here. I was watching the round ball. And as soon as I came here, they're the icons I'm taught about. They're the guys that people say, get on YouTube, watch videos of them. The Flying Door Mark, check him out. The Jezelenko Mark.
Jezelenko. Imagine... Jezza, like, he's one name, right? Imagine Jezza, like, we used to seriously, like, in the park, I mean, and it wasn't even Cohen supporters those days. Every supporter used to take a mark and go, Jezza, let go, you beauty, you know? That's what our icons were like, man. So, yeah, it was huge, man.
And do you see, like, obviously you grew up as well prior to us winning the flags in the late 70s, early 80s. Do you see any correlation between where we are now? Because we did go through a little bit of a dry patch in the early years.
Yeah.
So you've experienced the dry patches. Do you see the light at the end of the tunnel? Can you feel the 80s coming back?
I do. But then I don't know if it's just me being like optimistic about the team, but I do feel like different to the last 10 years. This definitely looks like a team that could do something special, you know, because we could have Dulls and Kernahans and like Diesel and, coming through the winter, Wayne Arms and the Mosquito fleet. We could have that happening. And I believe we've got that with the Wiederings and the Docks and the Cribs and the Curnos and the McKay. So I think, yeah, I can see something happening, but well, it's still got to happen, man. They've still got to do it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I am getting excited, and I have got that same sort of feeling of before we hit that patch. Even like in the 90s when we went from the 80s, and then we had this little bit of a dry patch, and then we went back into those early 90s all the way up to 95, 96, where that dominance was coming, and we'd lost a few finals, I remember early 90s, but then we came in, and I had this feeling something was about to happen, yeah? So, yeah. Get on, boys, get on.
Oh, no, I'm with you, and I think that it's funny you say that, because you look at, like, say, the 81 side of Carlton, which you would say was right in the peak of, our era of dominance, slap bang in the middle. And you look at that list, and you look at the guys that went out to battle for us to win that flag, you can kind of see that in 20, 30 years' time, when one of these boys wins a flag for us, it's going to end a barren spell. And it's almost like it's a fast track, I think, to become the next Mark McClure, the next Johnson, the next Ashman, Harms, Fitzpatrick, Hunter.
Yep.
These boys are going to get a fast track to that because they're going to break the spell. It's hard to believe a club of our lineage has gone 25 years.
25 years, man. 25 years. It's getting close to one of our biggest dry spells, if you think about it. 25 years. It's a long time, man. Long time.
And I think that's an interesting thing because when you look at it in, like, say, other sports, it's a crazy thing to think about going that long, because we look around that time in English soccer, it was Blackburn Rovers won the league. Now, Blackburn Rovers are languishing in the lower leagues of English football now. They swan dive from the top flight, and a world of hurt has happened to them. And you see it in other sports, but the difference between us and Blackburn is Blackburn weren't a big side. They didn't have the history. That was kind of an anomaly in their career. And they've kind of found their level. But it's heartbreaking to think we're that barren. Because we're too big a club to not win something.
We're massive, man. You know that. Everyone out there knows that. Even the supporters out there who are kind of laughing at us and they're happy that we're down there, they know. They know we're coming, man. Like, they know. And when they come, we're going to come hard because we're just too big to stay down where we are. And this also gives me hope that we'll get back up there because we're just too big of a club to stay down there. But, 25 years, man, that's way too long. Unfortunately, from the outside, we are that bottom side. Remember, from away from our little group, we are that bottom side, you know what I mean? But within, we believe we're not. And that is a big ticket for us to get out of this. I'm telling you, because deep inside, come on, everyone out there believes, right? All the current supporters, they know that we're going to be a top side again. And trust me, the club knows that, and we'll get out of this. We'll get out of this.
I think it's a big one as well. I think that it's our mindset needs to change. And I'm a firm believer in positive reinforcement. And that is really believing it. And I'm starting to, there's been a lot of years when I do this show with Terry, and now you're here and Joe's here, and it's great to share this experience with you. But for the last year and a bit, I've been optimistic. And I sometimes think what you just said when you said at the start, I don't know if that's me being positive. Yeah. I feel what you mean, because sometimes I feel like my duty is to force the positivity and be like, get around these blokes. We can do it. But I genuinely look at this list and there's some names here that I think could become the Diesels, the Kernahans. Like, look at Sam Walsh. Sam Walsh has got, I can see my son having a kid or any of my kids having children and saying, Grandad, what was it like to see Sam Walsh play? And, you know, there'll be a little player playing now and I can have that old man conversation going, oh, he's good, son, but he's no Sam Walsh. He was a proper footballer.
100%,
you
man.
can see it. You can see it. And like other players as well, like Mitch McGovern, what's to say he doesn't become? Like, what a great story that would. He kicks 4 goals in a final.
Yep.
And we can tell the story. Oh, he came from Adelaide. No one liked him.
No, everyone wanted him out, mate. And
overpaid. And then 2021 grand final versus Richmond. Took 12 of the best marks you've ever seen. Yep. Tore them apart.
And this is the dream they have to be sold now. And this is the dream that they need to believe, man. Even the Mitch McGovern, which man, you know how much I've bagged that bloke, you know what I mean? But I want him to prove me wrong, man. I want him, not for me, like who am I, you know, for himself. I want him to prove everyone wrong. And you're right. And stand up and kick those 4 and 5 goals in the grand final and his name be elevated to that extreme level. And someone like Walsh, I can see him, people forgetting about who Greg Williams was and Walsh being the next, because he's got that determination, he's got that look, and he can play, you know. Like I can see him being the next great, you know, man in the middle for us, yeah. And in the back, you get Wiedering. I can see Wiedering being the next Bruce Dool. He's got that calm, cool, collective. He doesn't talk much, but he gets the job done. So he's another one, yeah.
Oh, and I think one thing I've noticed as well, having young kids, is as the years go by, they start to use these players' names in the park. I'm starting to hear, you know, my son get the ball and he handballs it and he goes Walsh to Betts,
yes,
and doing the commentary. And it makes me proud, because that's kind of, to me, the indication we're getting better as a football club. That they're not ashamed anymore.
Exactly.
Like, can you imagine how daft they must have been going to Kindy going, Sumner handballs it to Kerry?
So, oh, no way. Off to, I don't even want to say these names in case I run into them one day, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, they're not names you just throw around, yeah.
And we have got a real special guest that we're going to talk to, and we can reveal we have got the great Wayne Harms, haven't we?
Wayne Harms, man. A footballer's footballer. He's the footballer footballers would go and watch football for. You know, he was that real footballer. Tough, man. He was only small in stature, or smallish, but could take the big marks, you know, do the runs, and then do those special moments that everyone knows about, you know. And he performed on the biggest stage of all many, many times, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm excited about this, man. I'm excited.
It's a big thing as well, if you think about, like, he won the Norm Smith on his first grand final.
Yep.
And that, to me, is a huge thing. Like, Can you imagine playing the VFL grand final, your first major final, and blowing it out of the park so good that you named the best on ground?
Yeah, and that's a 79 grand final. Exactly right. It was only like a few years prior that he was playing in some junior level, you know, down at Oak Park, you know. So,
well, to put that in perspective, like, you look at someone that's like, you know, someone in the 2018 draft coming through and winning it. So it would be like, you know, Stocker playing 20 games this year, going into the grand final and winning best on ground. Like, it's a huge ask.
Huge, man, huge. And remember, in the 79 grand final, who we were playing, like, we were playing Collingwood, you know what I mean? And in that whole era, man, we either played Collingwood or Richmond, or we didn't really play Essendon, but we played Collingwood or Richmond. We played Essendon in finals, but not in grand finals. That's another thing about those days, those great eras, you know. Like, there was a top, like the 4 great sides of Melbourne, you know, Collingwood, Carlton, Richmond, Essendon, you know, and we were playing those teams consistently and performing against these sides. Can everyone out there, just for a second, just imagine beating Collingwood or Richmond final, like, and imagine playing in one of these games.
You see, I'm with you because I'm often romantic about sport in the terms of there's certain ways you want to win it. So as a Rangers fan at the moment, it's great to be 11 points clear
It's
of the
a
old
it's a
enemy.
good time for the Rangers,
It's a great point. But I had Rangers friends say to me when we got relegated and we got the heavy sanctions, it didn't feel the same to win it without us there.
Yep.
And I would feel the same if Celtic weren't there. It
Yep.
wouldn't feel the same.
No.
Because I want to beat them when they're at their best. I want to know they've done all they can and it wasn't quite good enough. It makes it sweeter. And I have an element of romanticism that I'd love us to be in the top four with Essendon, Pies, and Richmond. Like, imagine that.
Yeah. Oh, as much as like I can't even watch a game when we play them in the normal season. So imagine in the final I'm playing one, and we remember back to as early as like we did play Essendon and Richmond, and I did get that feeling, like you go in there, I can't even enjoy the game anymore. You know what I mean? That's how big it is. But when you win, that euphoria, that feeling, man, you just can't beat, man. As much as I wish nothing but misery for those other three sides, really, I just want misery and pain for them, but I want us to inflict that pain, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's something that I was pushing a lot last year. Like those who watch Blue Abroad will have seen I went public and got into a fight with Swoop Luke, who's the Collingwood version of Blue Abroad.
Yeah.
And me and him had a stupid bet, which resulted in me wearing a Collingwood Guernsey.
Yeah.
But that's what I want to see. Like, I don't care. I don't want Essendon to win the wooden spoon. I won't get enjoyment out of that.
No.
I want us to be the reason they get the wooden spoon. I want round 23. They need to beat us. And if we beat them, they're condemned. Yeah. Like, I want it to be us who can write the script. And for years, it's been us laughing at Essendon losing a final.
Yep.
And it's another team that's done it. And there's that meme that Collingwood keep throwing at me at the moment with Dom Sheed kicking the winner against them and saying Carlton's greatest moment of the last 30 years. And it hurts me to think that's what other fans think, because it's true. Our greatest moment of the last 2 decades is Dom Sheed killing Collingwood.
And look, it was a great moment. I did shed a tear that day, I have to admit, but you're absolutely right. It's sad that we have to live on other teams' miseries for us to get joy, and that's wrong, and that's almost conceding defeat. Like we've conceded because we can't do it. So the only way we can get any sort of pleasure is for these bigger sides to get punished. Even this year against Collingwood, when they got smashed by Geelong, it was enjoyable. But sometimes the Carlton faithful, man, they got overexcited over that, and we should have been thinking. I was a little bit upset, and I know you were too, Pom. You were saying that you were upset because that should be us beating them like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're right.
You see, I always find it quite counterproductive when I watch the finals, especially this year. I'm looking at teams and thinking, if we'd done our job sufficiently, we'd have your spot.
Yep.
And this would be us. And then you start to watch Geelong and you think, well, we absolutely smashed Geelong off the park for 3.5 quarters. And
why are we there?
If this was us, could we have done that in a final? Could this be us? And it makes me more depressed to watch it. It's kind of bittersweet for me because with all my teams, I will never cheer on another team. I just can't do it. So I sit there and just genuinely enjoy the sport and the spectacle. And if I'm honest, I couldn't give a shit who wins.
I'm the same. I'm the same.
Like I said to my mate, he was a Richmond fan. He was like, who do you want to win this final, Geelong or Richmond? And I was like, I kind of hope you win it, because I was like, you're going to get your bee in your bonnet. You're going to get excited. And I want to take it off you next year. I want to be grand final 3 in a row and we take it off you.
Yep. Well, I've said the same, a little bit different. I've said to those Richmond supporters, I wanted them to win this year, and I'm happy they won, because they're not going to get a look in for the next 10 years. I'm telling you, it's going to be all us, So that's what I've been saying. So, yeah. So I'm the same, man. I don't really care. I don't like any other team. You know, like people that when Brisbane went over to like or South Melbourne, maybe Brisbane, who's probably the worst one because they both went to other sides. But the Fitzroy supporters, you know, they went to Brisbane. Yeah, I suppose you got to follow someone, but I don't know, man. I couldn't do it, man. It's all blue. It's all blue, man. Blue runs through my vein. I know people say it, but it's true with me, man. I can't. I can't like another side. No chance, you know.
No, I'm with you. I mean, like the closest I get is like with my wife with St Kilda. She's a massive Saint girl, and
You have to
I'll
do that for peace at home.
no, but I can be happy for her. I wouldn't say I was
Yeah, of
supporting them
course.
vehemently, but I was happy to see
Of
her
course,
side
of
do well and then I was kind of upset because I was like, I want this.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I was saying to the end of the game, I want Carlton to be playing St Kilda in an elimination.
yep.
Like, so we're both there.
You know, at your home.
I'll tell you, it'd be a great place to be. I tell you, because we get stuck into each other just in regular season games. When it actually meant life or death, it could be a divorce.
It could be a divorce, but all worth it. If we win, it's all worth the divorce. Trust me, man. Trust me.
If we break 25 years of hurt, I mean, I'll willingly lose half of everything.
Well, you're going to get divorced anyway because you're not coming home for about a week after that. So
I might not come home for 25 years. I mean, but it's going to be an interesting moment. But I mean, I suppose we've got to look as well. Like we talked about Harmsy, and we'll get him on the show soon.
Yep.
Who's going to be our Harmsy? Who in our list do you think, if you had to name 5 players that you think when finals are there, they're going to go up an echelon?
Yeah. Well, I think, we'll go in each line. I think in the back line, our Harmsy's going to be like either Wiedering. Wiedering, I love Wiedering. I think he's the man who will stand up, you know what I mean? Going through the middle, naturally, your Cribs and your what? How do you go past? I think it's going to be Walsh, you know what I mean? I love that kid, man, because he's stood up big time. And this year, man, they asked the question of him earlier on in the year, especially people like Corns and that. They asked the question of him, and then he took that mark. Remember that mark of the year? How can anyone forget that?
Against Port, yeah.
Mate, that just I think that elevated him to the next level, even to me. Like I looked at that and went like, because at that stage you're thinking, oh, he's maybe a skillful player, but is he going to go when he has to go? And so he'd be, and up in the forward line, who's going to be the next Harms up in the forward line? Come on, who's going to be the next one?
There's only one, isn't there?
There's only one that's going to stand up there. Yeah, so they're the type of players that are capable of doing it. Is there anyone else around there? Of course there is. You know, the Williams, the Sard could be another one, you know.
You know who I think for the back line? Call me crazy, but I think Lockie Plowman. Because he steps up when you don't believe in him. Like the amount of times against Tom Papley, he can't handle him. He keeps him in check.
Yeah.
Against Walters, he won't be able to handle him, keeps him in check. Against Cameron, won't be able to handle him, he keeps him in check. He strikes me as the kind of guy, and I've said this has been my criticism of him all year. You put him on an elite small forward, he'll kill him. You put him on me, I'll kick 10 on him.
Yeah, that's true.
So he strikes me as like guy that needs something to aspire to. If he's on the Postman down the road, he's not motivated for some reason. But when he's against it, when his back's against the wall, I'm doing it. And I just think
that's a good call. I like that.
Honestly, I could see grand final, them putting him on someone and him just absolutely tearing them apart.
Doing like a Reece Jones, man, David Reece Jones, putting him on the best player and just slowly like winning the Norm Smith medal. Yeah, no, I can see that, mate. That's a good call.
I can see it like, being 1 point ahead, 2 minutes left on the clock. We're against it. And Plowman rises above everyone. Takes that mark. Do you know what I mean? And you just know it's won. He takes the time off the clock, takes the mark. He does that little cheeky grin he does.
Yeah.
Takes his steps back, does that calm down.
Calm it down. No, I can see that. That's a good call. I like Plowman. He's been a little bit maligned over the time, but I'm telling you, you'll be a brave man not to put him in your back six round one. Anyone that says he doesn't deserve, man, he's definitely like, you pencil him in every week at the moment, man.
For me, he's one of the. I think he's one of them people that has got legend written all over him.
Yeah,
because of his career, because he's been loved, he's been hated. Should he be in the side?
Yeah,
and he's going to be the guy that in a grand final probably makes his name, and everyone just remembers the grand final all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I like that call for the back line. That's a good call. That's a good call.
And the other weird one for midfield, I'm going to throw in David Cunningham. He's mercurial. And I just think if I know David Cunningham, that'll be the game.
Yeah, well, Cunningham. Unfortunately, with Cunningham, he just doesn't do it enough, like it's that, man, I'd like to see Cunningham, actually, because I think he's got a lot of talent, that kid, so, but I'm a bit fearful of Cunningham that he's not going to get to the levels that he's supposed to, so.
I just think he's one of them players that a final would make him. Like, it seems like it would be written in the stars. He played a final.
Yeah.
He'd go off.
Yeah. I can see Mickey Gibbons come up and win the Norm Smith medal with like 4 goals, a small forward. I can see him doing it. He's got that grit and determination, that Wayne Harms kind of, I can see him doing that inspirational moment. Yeah, so he's one that, mate, if he's best on ground, we're winning the grand final, I'm telling you now.
I can also see Mr. Jack Silvani, a guy that flags run in his DNA.
Yeah.
He knows what it takes.
Yeah, I would love Jack to win. I like Jack. I've always liked Jack. I think he's got the heart for Carlton, and he this year he had a bit of like with the injuries, and then near the end, his brother getting delisted, his dad and all that, and he's still there, and I definitely, Blue runs through that kid there, and you would love to see him in grand final day, yeah.
Oh, you could see it as well, couldn't you? You could see how poetic it would be. Oh. He's named as the emergency. In the warm-up, Mitch McGovern does a hammy. Oh. He comes in last minute. The first inside 50. Jack takes the mark, kicks the goal, gets it going.
And pumps it, man, and just screams out there. That photo, remember that photo of him in the rain there, man?
Yeah.
I've got to get that up on my wall, man. It shows everything, Carl. Man, that's a good call, man. That's a good call. I can see Sauce doing it.
He's just got that thing, though, hasn't he? He's got it. It's like in his blood. It's like his destiny. It's almost like he's got to kick a goal in a grand final.
I think he's got it. Yeah, no, definitely. I can see the big Saucer doing it, or big. I call him Bob. I think I'm gonna keep calling him Bob until that name sticks. Brother of Ben.
It makes sense to me. It makes sense. I mean, it'd be an exciting time, because I do think we have to look at it this way, though, that at least a good portion of this side are going to be in our next flag.
Well, yeah, we have to be, man. Like, that's how we got to be thinking. Of course, this is the side, isn't it? It's been the rebuild. It's the 6th year. We've got it, we've got this side. Yeah, it has to be a big portion. Naturally, there's going to be a few inclusions there that we don't even know about yet, because players always pop up out of nowhere, and I hope they do, man. I hope it's O'Brien, and I hope it's Stocker that's in that grand final side. That only makes us a lot better. But yeah, a big portion, and that's what makes our team exciting, because we do believe a big portion of this side is premiership bound.
Oh, they have to be. And there's some players on there as well that we haven't talked about, your Dows and stuff.
Yep.
These guys, again, you would say this is last chance saloon, and I hope that is the message to the club. That this is like if you wanted a fast track to become a legend or an icon, we're probably the only club in the AFL, apart from St Kilda, that can give you it. You can break a barren spell for a very proud club.
Oh,
and that will instantly catapult you over players that probably you don't deserve to be catapulted above, but because of the passion we give our players, they instantly become household names, don't they? They're going to be in the papers of the Herald Sun. You're going to get a load of people 9 months after the grand final name their kids Jack, Paddy, Jacob.
There's going to be a whole bunch of Paddies running around.
Do you know what I mean? There's going to be a load of Samuels, Patricks, Charlies, Harrys, Jacobs.
100%, man. You're absolutely right. And that's what they've got to be told, man, because, man, if I was in charge, man, I'd be saying, listen, we're winning premierships. Do you want to be part of this? Man, you've got your foot in the door, man. Do you want to be part of this premiership, you know? And to tell you the truth, if we do want to elevate to the next level, Dow, O'Brien, Stocker, they have to elevate and get into this side. They really do. Because if they're pushing up and we're keeping them out, right, man, our side's a much better side, man. They have to be pushing up.
I think the great thing you've just said there, and I think this is something that gets me excited, is there's no gifted games anymore.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
You are now fighting for your job. Every week you are fighting to stay in that 22.
And I think we all feel that. And I think like even Murphy and Eddie Betts, you know, these, you know, like our favourite old players there, they're not gifted a game either just quietly anymore. And that's good. You know, like when we're talking about the Carlton side, we hardly mention Murphy. You know what I mean? And in years gone by, it's the first person you're thinking about, Murphy in our midfield. And now we're not even thinking about him. And yeah, he's probably in our best 22 next year. But he's not the first player we talk about. And that's good for the Carlton. That's really good.
It is good. And it brings me on to something that I always think of. My good mate, Tyrone, he supports Richmond. And he always says to me, like, I remember Butler, and he's like, why is Butler being delisted? Why are we trading him? He's killing it in the VFL. He should take Castagna's spot. He's done fuck all for the last 2 weeks. And I was like listening to him, and I remember at the time thinking, I can't tell you anyone in our VFL team that deserves to play our first 22.
You're right, too.
And I think I'm looking forward to having that discussion this year. Seeing Jack Silvani maybe kick 5 goals in the VFL or Paddy Dow have 32 and asking the question, how come he's not playing this week? Like, he's banging down the door and actually getting excited to see his name included because he's had 3 or 4 weeks of blinding football. And that's where we need to be. If we're going to win flags, we need to be seeing Mark Murphy have 14 touches and then looking at them VFL results and going, why is he playing and Dow's not? Why is he playing and O'Brien's not?
Yep. And that's good. That's good competition in the side within the team. And that's definitely, and just quickly on that with the VFL side, I'm wrapped that we're going to have our own standalone team this year. I'm telling you, like the Richmonds and all that, they've got their own standard side, and you can see the quality in their play because they can all, you know, do that same game plan. And instead of like, I'm sure like between Fraser and the VFL coach there and the senior coach, there would have been a bit of a difference in the way they want to play the game. They got different little goals, you know what I mean? Where now, man, the VFL side is just going to be this breeding ground to just get that next player up and it'll be good. We can get these Paddy Dows and that playing the game. And then when they're ready, just like a Richmond, they step into that position, unseemingly just take care of that position and just fit a role and not a player. That's what we've got to be doing. So I'm pretty excited about that, actually.
100%. I think it'll be a big part of our next flag. I think this development is going to win us flags. And I think this flag is going to be so important to us because we're all emotionally invested in this journey. We've either shouted, we've cried, we've screamed, we've sworn. Some of us have hugged and kissed our way through it and been lovely. Some have been dickheads.
And just have a look at the fan cams and you can see that.
But I think it's going to be such a relief because it's something I always say when I disagree with any Carlton fan. You might be right, I might be wrong, I might be wrong, you might be right. However, at the end, all we care about is winning a flag.
That's it. That's it.
I think I speak for everyone when I say I don't care who's right, because we're all going to party hard when that end goal is what we want, which is a flag.
The best, because I was there for that 95, man, like when you hug a stranger, like that feeling of hugging a stranger, and just like it feels like you've both achieved something so great, and you're looking at each other and you're giving yourself high fives and you're punching the air. That's a great feeling. I can't wait for that. And you're right, it doesn't matter who was right at that moment. It doesn't matter anymore. Like we've achieved what we wanted to achieve. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it doesn't happen in AFL like it does in England, but like every goal, there is nothing better in soccer than jumping up and kissing the guy next to you on the forehead. I mean, you've got some fat guy that you don't know his name, and suddenly you're hugging him, you're kissing him, you're giving it one of these.
That's it.
It's the greatest moment in the history of sport. I mean, the best is when you're at the public toilets as well, and it's just seeing a load of your own fans hear the goal, and they're still weeing and they're hugging each other.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Those little
nothing says camaraderie like that.
Oh, it's going to be good, man. I think. You know what? I'm feeling it with the Blues supporters too in recent times, man. I can just feel something building, mate. I can feel something building, mate.
I am looking forward to personally hugging and kissing everyone down Lygon Street about 22 pints in.
Oh, it's going to be, I'm telling you, I said it, Church Street, forget about it. Lygon Street, we are going to be rocking that place, man. It's going to be so good, man. It's going to be so good.
And talking about someone who wins flags, I suppose we should introduce our guest, Wayne Harms. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged to be joined by a man that needs no introduction, but a flag winner 3 times for our great football club, Norm Smith medalist Wayne Harms. Welcome to the show, Wayne.
Well, thanks for having me here. I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Oh, so Wayne, we've been discussing a lot about Carlton greats, and we're getting some greats on the show. Yourself is a real honour for us to have. I would love you to tell us about, we know that you started your career at Oak Park, you got recruited by Carlton. Tell us a bit about that early years for you. What did football mean to you growing up? Did you always want to be a footballer? Was that the dream?
Well, not really. I always wanted to be a golfer. I actually purposely got thrown out of school to take up golf, and I actually applied for a junior assistant at Craigieburn Golf Course, and at the age of about 14 and a half, I got an invite from Carlton to go down and train with the under-19s, and I turned around to Dad and said, "What do you think I should do, Pal?" He said, "We'll go and have a crack at it and see what happens, and if not, you can revert back to to having a go at what you really love, which in those days was golf." But in the early days, we really only had 2 sports, and that was golf and cricket and football. And nowadays, kids have got so much scope to be able to do different things. And we just had the 2 games, and so I decided at 14 and a half to go to Carlton, and I guess I was lucky enough to stay on.
Did you ever play cricket? Was that one of your sports?
Yeah, I love cricket, and
were you good? What were you, a batsman? You were a batsman.
I was okay at it. I guess, as I said earlier, that's all you had, and what you did in those days with your brother and your cousins, and that you go down the park and kick the footy for 3 hours, and then you come back and play play cricket till it got dark and you couldn't see the ball anymore. So, it was look, I didn't think I'd make it, even though I had a fairly good career as a junior. I represented Victoria in the under-15 school boards and won the overall medal there, and that's when I was at Carlton prior to that. And but I was lucky to get there, to be honest, guys, because where I lived, there's about 8 houses in a block, and there was 8 houses. Then we had a street called Turkin Avenue and Northumberland Road. Well, that side of Northumberland Road was Essendon. That side of Turkin Avenue was North Melbourne. So as the old days with the grading and the territory, that area of 8 houses as it came to a bit of a peak or a point were owned by Carlton. So even though I played 2 years of Little League at North Melbourne and played for Oak Park, which was a North Melbourne-based side, I was residentially zoned to Carlton, who I despised in those days because I grew up a Richmond supporter.
Wow.
And had my heart set on playing for Richmond if I was lucky enough to go further.
Richmond's loss was Carlton's gain, though. That's good because it's quite a common scenario as well that the Carlton Football Club is bestowed on our rivals. We know Cooter was a massive Collingwood fan, so we have often had a bit of luck snaring childhood fans of our rivals and making them greats of our own great club.
Well, look, I think Carlton were very lucky to have that recruiting zone in the old days of Bendigo, mainly. And if you look at most of the guys in the 79 side that weren't interstaters, and I think there might have only been a couple of interstaters in that 79 side, most of the rest were from Bendigo. You've got Rod Ashmans and Trevor Keoghs and Jeff Southby's, and I'll have to look at some of the photos I've got around here, but I haven't got my glasses on. But a lot of those guys were from what was, Bendigo being one of the best country competitions in Victoria. And, Carlton owned that area and we had to pick of the bunch.
It's crazy as well when we look now because our recruitment network has been totally disowned by the AFL. So we have like Sorrento area where I think only 2 footballers have ever made the grade from that district in recent times. So it's weird to look back where we had a good recruiting network to now where we have to kind of externally bring players in. We can no longer have a culture like we did back in your day with a Bendigo group of blokes. Now we're kind of clutching at straws, which is kind of a shame, I think.
Oh, to be honest, what you just said surprises me. I didn't realise Carlton actually had a recruiting area as such. I thought everything just went through the TAC draft of 18-year-olds, and but I don't know if they're doing it right or not, but they probably need to spend more time out and about and having a look around and realising that some young kids that may be either half inch too short or a half yard too slow or an inch too wide across the backside might be better players within a group of players that are, set fairly high standards. So no one's really out of the mix, I'd suggest, but it's just a matter of being able to identify that talent that's coming through.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned there not being the right stature. When we look at you as a career, you weren't the biggest bloke, and you really broke the mould for someone your stature. You were known for your high flying, your tough to the ball attitude, both ends of the ground. And we know that you had top 3 in the 76 in the Moorish medal. We know we've got Liam Stocker, who's a very similar build to yourself. How hard is that going from being top 3 for your age bracket, then lining up against Melbourne as a senior footballer? What's the step up like? Because you were 17 years old, which is mind-boggling to get our heads around nowadays.
I think the best thing out of it was when I was young and playing underage football, I would play in the under 11s, but I'd step up and also fill in when they were short for the under 15s and under 17s. So I was able to play against guys that were actually shaving and scared the daylights out of me when I was 11 years of age playing against under 15s and 17s. And I won my first best and fairest at Carlton in the under 19s at 15 years of age. But I wasn't massive. I was probably only about 72, 73 kilos, but I was always fairly solid. But the guys we had at Carlton, they certainly were. If I got into trouble, I knew I could turn around and there'd be 6 or 7 of them coming in, and they were some nasty boys there that would they'd square up for me. I walked a little bit taller with them because they were 19-year-olds. They were thick, they were strong, and they would look after the younger type players like myself and a couple of other young guys that were lucky enough to play at that age.
Well, that definitely gave you then a lot of confidence, even being the 15-year-old, knowing those players there. As you said, you'd walk with a little bit of a leap in your step, yeah?
Oh, look, you would because, they were there, they'd support, I was like little brother. And if little brother got hurt, big brother would come in and he'd do the damage to the other guys. And, other sides would then realise, geez, if we hit the young fella here, there's going to be a square up somewhere along the line. And you remember those things, and you know what you should be doing and what you can't be doing. And you don't want to go out and do it every contest, but you know that if it does happen, you've always got those guys here, like the bouncers we were talking about earlier off air.
Yeah.
There to step in and sort things out.
Yeah.
Well, it reminds me a lot of when I was a kid drinking. I had an older brother, so I used to go out drinking with his friends, and I relate to what you're saying, Wayne. Having older people, I could be lippy and always be protected. So, not the same sport, drinking and football, but I feel it. You do feel 10 foot tall, and I think that's something that is weird for us now in 2020. The players are 19 when they're coming in; they're already kind of men. But to think of a 17-year-old playing round one this year against Richmond is just like beggars belief, doesn't it, Rocco?
Oh, it's definitely.
Well, it's interesting. I tend to disagree with you because you said drinking and football's a lot different. Well, it wasn't in those days, and that was probably part of the reason why Carlton was such a successful side in the late 70s, early 80s, is because we, first of all, we knew a lot about each other and what our teammates' interests were off the ground. Our wives and girlfriends were very, very close to the other players' wives and girlfriends. We went out religiously on a Saturday night afterwards and did things we shouldn't have did as a group. And we basically, even though we only trained Tuesday and Thursday night, we would know each other to the extent as close as our family. And that was the beauty in Carlton in those days. And we're still mates now when we, catch up with each other. I guess we've got that common bond that we formed and went through. But it was just, if we were going out, it was one in all in. That person that didn't want to go out was that person that was ostracised a little bit later on. Why didn't you come out with us? Why weren't you a part of the group? And realistically, anything that happened on the ground, bang, you knew that everyone was looking after each other and we were all there for the same common goal and the same common reason. And, that was the reason for the success of Carlton through those late 70s and early to mid 80s. Sensational.
I agree, mate. I agree totally. Like that bond outside. I've done that in my little sporting achievements in life, and that bond outside of the like the game time is so important because when you get onto the ground, you're backing each other up. You know each other. That player there that you're doing that 1%. You just had a drink with him the night before, and you know everything about his family, and all of a sudden that bonds the whole team together. Yeah.
It was an amazing experience, and I guess being the youngest in this group at those early days, I was always, do I go and talk to Jesselenko or Dool or Barry Armstrong or Trevor Keogh? Because, I was talking to Brucey Dool the other night, and there's 10 years difference between us. I'm 60, Bruce is 70 now. Alex Jesselenko, this is interesting because I never ever knew my team, apart from the guys that were around my age. I didn't really know the ages of the older guys that I played with, and I only found out the other day when I was going through some stats that when I was 19 in the 79 grand final, Alex Jesselenko was 36. So, that's a massive difference in age. Our bond and our camaraderie was second to none. Even though Alex scared the absolute living daylights out of me with his training methods and what he put us through and scared us into winning a grand final. I don't think we wouldn't have won a grand final in 79 if Alex hadn't have bludgeoned us on the training track the way he did. And if they would have put the players today through the training methods that we had in 79, Alex would probably be sitting in court answering to a judge that you can't put people through that kind of extremities in training. It was amazing. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Just slightly, because in 78 you had Ian Stewart as your coach, but only for 3 games. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was an interesting period of time.
Yeah, and Jezza took over after that, did he?
Alex took over as a playing coach.
What was that thing with the 3? Because it was only 3 games, and he was a big name, Ian Stewart, wasn't he?
Oh, look, anyone who wins 3 Brownlow medals is obviously certainly a big name, but
Exactly.
Oh, look, Stewie was an interesting guy. I don't know. I can't put. I think it was more outside of the football club that the issues arose with Ian. I don't know what they are. I'm not looking into saying it was this, and this, but an interesting character. But certainly, when he spoke, your ears would prick up and think, well, okay, this guy knows his football, and just a quick one with Stewie. He walked into the rooms one half time, and we were going okay, but we weren't putting a real dent in the opposition. And in the old days, I used to have rubbish bins with the tin lids on it. And Stewie's walked in, and we're all sitting in front of our lockers, and I was 37, and across the road from me was Jimmy Buckley, number 16. And Stewie's walked in, and he could see in his face he was ready just to kill someone. And as he walked in, he's kicked this rubbish bin, and you can imagine the rubbish bin is all in slow motion. The rubbish bin is doing these circles, and I'm watching it, and all of a sudden it's hit Jimmy Buckley in the shin. And Jimmy's kind of gone, but didn't let out that something had happened. So Stewie's given us a bit of a spray and told us to go out in the ground, and Jimmy's ran out within about 3 minutes after the siren was blowing and the game started. Jimmy had fractured the rubbish bin had fractured his shin.
Wow.
And Stewie didn't even know he did it. But that's just the type, he was volatile at times. He was good at times, but 3 games is not many, is it?
It's not many.
No, I was going to say like 3 games, and then all of a sudden, and you're only like an 18-year-old, and then you got Stewart, and as you said, 3 Brownlows, and then all of a sudden, then Jezza, like he was playing, so all of a sudden now, your mate that you've been drinking and that has become your coach also. So how was that?
Yeah, difficult because Alex used to train before the sessions and then put us through these, as I said earlier, brutal training sessions. Realistically, we'd play on a Saturday. We would have a 120-minute practice match on a Tuesday night. We'd have probably an hour and a quarter training session on a Thursday and then play on a Saturday. So you're effectively within that week, full game, and then prepare for the game. And look, we only lost 3 games in 79. But the one game we got beaten early, which was our 3rd loss for the year, was against Geelong, and that was the start of Alex's, well, I'm going to get you. You don't listen, I'll make you listen. So we got the training on a Tuesday night. We started at 5 o'clock. We were told to bring runners, boots, and mouth guard. And when you're asked to bring a mouth guard, you know something's going to happen. So what we started off doing, we had to run in groups initially, so it was a running session. So this particular night we completed 10 100s, 10 200s, 10 400s, 10 800s and 5 1500s.
Wow.
Now today's list, there's a kilometre, 10 2s is another 2 kilometres, 10 4s is another 4 kilometres. So what have we got? 4, 6, 7. We've got 10 8s. There's another 8 kilometres and 5 15. So we're around about the 20 kilometre mark that we're running under times that we had to do. So after we finished that, we thought, okay, that's pretty solid. We've come off a game against Geelong. We're getting punished. We've run about 20K. Okay. So then he started on one-on-one contesting. So apart from, wasting people's time and talking about that, we started at 5 o'clock. We got off the track at 10:30. And Alex's, if you look at the results from then on, Carlton used to always power away in the 3rd quarters. We might be 6 or 7 goals down, or 3 or 4 goals down at half time. Come end of 3/4 time, we're a couple of goals up, and we're starting to get. And that was all because Alex would walk out at 3/4 time and he'd say, "Just think about Tuesday night." That's all we have to say. Just think about Tuesday night. About 5 or 6 words, and we just look at each other and go, "Oh, gee, we're not going through that again." And we didn't lose a game after that 3rd loss against Geelong that season. He was brutal, Alex. He was brutal, but I'll thank him every day. I'd have the opportunity to thank him for what he did that season. That actually skipped. It's interesting that Collingwood in that grand final, without being disrespectful, weren't a bunch of guys that were massive big names, but they were a group of guys that had a fair dinkum go.
Yeah.
And realistically, we knew, without again being arrogant, that the work that we'd done during that season in training, there was no way known, even though it was 5 points difference, there was no way known we knew that we'd get beat.
Really? Because you were down in that game. You were down.
Yeah, we were down. And they were that side that were just hard at it. Russell Olsen's ex-Carlton, who left the year before. You know, until Trevor Keogh knocked him out, legitimately knocked him out. Russell was definitely best on ground and could have quite easily have won it. And Russell, there's my house here. If you hit a 9-9 out my backyard, it'll land right in Russell's spar out the back.
Wow.
And to this day, he doesn't talk to Trevor Keogh.
Really?
Because of that day when Trevor said, well, stuff, you cop this, and just went whack and fixed him up for the rest of the day.
Wow.
It's crazy listening to you as well, because it's something that we've complained about all year, and it was something that you said very early in your piece, of feeling like you had each of us back. There was like, you know, one in, all in. And it's something I was critical of last year with these fracas that happen, and it seems like it's staged at times. A player gets knocked and they all run in, and it kind of sometimes, to me, feels like it's pantomime and we're doing it for show. Now, if you look at other sports like soccer, in the 80s there was harder techniques than there is now. How do you think you build that camaraderie in a day and age where the players are a lot more pampered than they were in your day, aren't they?
Well, we didn't get fined for melees. We didn't get fined for breaking someone's cheekbone. We didn't get fined for cracking a jaw. It was expected. And the funny thing was, if you didn't come off the ground with an ailment around the face, you thought, well, geez, I really haven't earned it today. Maybe they go into these melees and fracas, the boys today, and they might be a little bit precious about, oh, geez, this is going to cost me $1,500. Well, guess what? In today's money, $1,500 is probably about 15 cents out the dollar. 1,500 to us in the old days probably would have been near on a year's wages.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. You know, we wouldn't allow our teammates to get whacked or cracked.
Yeah.
You know, I was one to square up, hopefully at the right time, but you know, we had Jim Buckley in our side, nasty. Wayne Johnson, nasty. Yeah. One of my best mates, Rod Ashman, Little Rover, wore the helmet, number 14. Just a nice, placid bloke, but when it was time to square up, he had this nasty streak in him. And didn't matter what size you were. You didn't have to be Wow Jones, 6'7". You didn't have to be Mike Fitzpatrick, 6'4". And you didn't have to be a Robert Klomp, who was a big, solid bloke. It was just a matter of, didn't matter what size you were, it was your mate.
Yeah.
And we've done all those hard nights with him, and you've been in the battle with him off the ground and during training, and no, you can't do it to him, not allowed to. So, you know, times have changed. It's a little bit, well, call it precious, maybe a little bit precious today. I don't know, too many cameras. Doesn't matter what angle you try and get someone today, you're going to get caught, you're going to get fined, you're going to get suspended.
Well, you can't do nothing. And we've, like we call our show the jumper punch, because now that's a big thing. You know, they grab the jumper and they give like a little bit of a tap on the chin, and if they get caught, they're going to get suspended for it. So you can't even do that anymore, Wayne.
There was, I remember one day, I think Balls was coaching, and we were playing Fitzroy and Mick Conlon. Mick Conlon, big, solid, muscle. And he's probably still the same size he is today than when he was playing. But Mick was hot. And he was clearing the ball out in the middle. He was typical Mick Conlon, hit the ball, bounce it. And there was a conversation brought up at half time, how can we stop Mick Conlon? And Wayne Johnson said, leave that to me. And we've gone, well, you know, just explain. And I don't know whether he's ever thought about doing this before. It was just a spur of the moment. He said, if I'm close, if you can see Conlon close to me, handball the ball to me and just let the rest, I'll look after him. So bugger me dead, the situation's arisen where someone's got the ball, they've handballed to Jono, and Mick Conlon's probably about 4 metres in front of him. So Jono's running straight towards Mick Conlon. About 3 steps before Jono got to Mick Conlon, Jono just handballed the ball up in the air. Just while he popped it up in the air, Mick Conlon's gone, what do you reckon Jono's done?
Oh,
I think may have cracked his sternum. Well, no more Mick Conlon. But it was a legitimate way of taking a player, a guy who was hot, out of the contest.
It is crazy because I love watching the 80s football. I love it. It's the same as soccer when I was a kid as well. I love watching the past because it's a different, almost like a different time. The game seems to be played, I think, for the love because the money wasn't there. And then we see it in soccer when the money comes in, there becomes like, more, I wouldn't say precious, but more, this is my body, this is my living. So you don't get the difficult tackles. Players aren't willing to put the head over the ball as much. We know you've been quite an outspoken critic of the changes in the game. And I think it's kind of ironic Gillian now wants the 80s back. High scoring, fast paced, a lot more open game, a lot more scoring as heavily. What do you think this year's football is missing compared to yours? What do you think we kind of need to go back to? Because that's what he wants without the violence. And obviously it wasn't all violent. It was very skillful as well.
Yeah, I think the rules have got to be set and the rules then can't be tampered with. So you've got to ask the question, who's running the competition? So don't let the coaches manipulate and change the rules that the AFL set to, if you want to play 6-6 and 6, that's fine. My thoughts on that is that you start as a 6-6 and 6. As soon as the ball's bounced, it's open slather. So when you've got three officiating umpires, you can work in thirds of the ground. So if you haven't got 3 pairs forward of centre, play a free kick. So you've got at least three pairs at any stage that can contest the football.
Yeah.
If you've got 2 forward of centre and that third umpire sees it and the ball's down here, blow the whistle and bring it back. Yeah. They have to extend the kicking distance to 25 to 30 metres.
Yeah.
They have to.
It's too short, isn't it?
It's too short. So the distance initially was 10 metres. They've extended it to 15 metres. We've now got a goal square that looks pretty as a rectangle that's there for no reason whatsoever. Yes. You don't have to kick within it. Get rid of that for a start.
Yep.
But make the kicking distance because it becomes too much of the basketball keepings off. So if you could imagine kicking the distance, taking it from 15 to 30, you'll pay money to go and watch a game of footy, to watch a contest. Not keepings off, but to watch a contest. So what'll happen, my thoughts are, so if you were to change that to 30 metres, and these guys miss the target left, they miss the target right, they miss the target high, and they miss the target low, that's going to cause a turnover. A turnover causes a contest. So when you allow them to kick 15 metres, they might be able to keep the footy off the opposition for at least 10 movements before they kick long. I'd be changing the kicking distance to a minimum 30 metres.
I love that. I love that. I've got to say, I've never thought of it, and I actually really enjoy it. I like that idea because I'm an advocate for banning kicking behind as well. I don't think that should be paid as a mark. I think that should be instantly play on because I think a lot of teams just kick it in their back line and take 10 minutes off the game.
Yeah, that was trialled in the VFA many, many years ago. I agree with you. You kick backwards, it's an automatic play on. Automatic play on. You've got to continue to you can tackle if the ball goes back and someone's close enough.
Yeah, I agree, Wayne. And also that long kick, I've been saying for ages, man, because one thing that we're lacking now is the contest between 2 players. I mean, like, it's rare that you get that contest now, you know what I mean? It's all about keepings off, and it's all about, like, they rave about when they can go from one side to the other without a contest, you know? But that's what I used to love, Wayne.
For me, it's a total, I guess, lack of confidence in your teammate. So running out of the back line in the old days and having a bounce and kicking it 60 metres, you knew you were kicking it to Mark McClellan.
Yep.
And I had the utmost confidence that Mark could beat anyone that he played on. I just wondered today whether the guys had the ability in their own teammates. And talking earlier about having the 3 pairs inside 50, you run out of the back half as a back pocket player, have a bounce kick at 60 metres. You watch the guys coming out the back half now, they'll run, they'll have a bounce, and then they'll come to a complete halt and no one to kick it to.
That's right, and they'll go back, and they'll kick it back.
It's funny we talk about kicking as well. My father-in-law, massive influence on me, 80 years old, everything Carlton, has told me all about you, Wayne, as one of his favourite players when he was a young lad. And he always says to me, and I wonder if you agree, that the kicking is a dying art in football. He always says to me, look at the younger players, the older players, they could hit targets from 30, 40 with ease. And nowadays it's a kick and hope. And we know you're an exponent of the long kick. You won the song kick competition with 69 metres. Do you think that's a dying art? Players don't kick as much as they used to?
Yeah, because they're scared of turning the footy over. It's a possession game, so they're scared of turning the footy over. You know, we get to training and we would be involved with kicking a football from, if you got there early, Bruce Stewart and I used to get there a couple of hours prior to training. We might kick the ball between us 400 times. I believe nowadays that when players train, there are people there that actually count the amount of kicks they've had on the night. When they get to a certain number, they're not to do it anymore. So if they're doing around the ground drills and some of the forwards might allocate or get to their number of kicks, what they should be doing is staying around for an hour behind training, 25, 30, 40 metres out and have 100 shots at goal. Then we won't see the crap that's going on now, guys missing from outside the goal, just outside the goal square.
It's simple, isn't it, Wayne? It's simple.
It's not hard. It's not a hard game.
I agree, mate. I agree.
For all of the things that football has got in it, you've got to be able to mark, you've got to be able to kick. Handball right, handball left. Kick right foot, kick left foot. Yeah. Tackle, get up, second efforts. Every aspect that footy has got, which is the most intricate game in the world, it's the easiest game in the world. The rules are you get the ball from A to B, goal to goal, in the quickest possible, my thoughts, in the quickest possible manner with the least number of touches. I looked at, I hope the kids don't watch this, but I was watching some highlights the other night, and there was a kick in at Waverley where I kicked the ball in with a mongrel torp and David Glascott marked it. I forget, this might have been it was 86. So it's got probably about 10 metres inside the square. Glass marked it and handballed to Craig Bradley, had 4 bounces and kicked a goal. So that proves that you can get from the end of Waverley, one end of Waverley to the other in 2 kicks.
That was a massive ground too, Gene.
A massive ground.
Yeah.
Why don't they try it?
Oh, yeah.
It is crazy as well, because you look at the modern day game as well, like Richmond, they're very handball heavy, very touch heavy. You watch them go from end to end, and it's very methodical. It's kick, mark, handball, run, kick, ball, mark, handball, run. It's probably about 15 touches in the average Richmond goal, end to end. So I think that 30-metre rule would start to open the game up as well, because when the ball hits the deck, I think that's the most exciting part of footy, when the ball is on the ground and watching guys scrap it out to get the ball out.
Imagine now with this new rule they're going to trial, which you've got to be 15 metres out of the goal square, which is there for no reason, as we spoke about earlier, but you're only allowed to work the mark laterally. So you're getting automatically a 10-metre start. Take another 10 metres before the guy can only work laterally. You've got 20 metres. If you kick that ball in excess of 30, predominantly you can kick it 50 to 55. Let's say you kick it 55, you're automatically 75 metres from where you started.
Yeah.
That means the opposition, they're not going to get back there in one touch. They're going to get back there in 2, 2.5, 3 touches.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right, man. And we've been saying that, man. For me, like the 80s and that, man, I love the way the game was played. As I said, man, the contest is gone now. You know what I mean? You don't see those. I mean, you saw those great contests in your days, man. Like you had the full forward and the full back and played on each other the whole game. Yeah, and there was that big contest there, and one would win, and then next time they played, like there'll be payback time, wouldn't there?
Yeah, look, it would, and I haven't been to watch many games in today's football, but I'm suggesting, and I don't know if I've ever paid to go to the footy there. There's a little thing, but if it costs you $30 to go and watch a game of footy, your return as your investment should be $1 a goal. So if you have the score 20 goals versus 10, there's your 30. If it's 15-10 versus 15-7, 3-point difference, there's your 30 goals. If, why pay $30 and watch 5 goals beat 4?
That's true.
The Little Leaguers at half-time can sometimes kick that.
Thanks very much, guys, for watching this far. Tune in tomorrow for the second part, where Wayne goes into detail about what he'd like to see in today's game, what he thinks would change and make it more exciting, and also what it takes to be a Carlton champion. Stay tuned. It's a ripping interview.